Hi guys, I can't see those numbers to tell that it actually turned on. This is Carol. How are you? I'm good. I need to make a disclaimer here before we even get started. Sound quality on this video is not great. I've got a microphone. I need to start wearing that microphone. But today the problem is Toby my dog was making a lot of noise. I have a schnauzer and a poodle and they get noisy, but they live here. This is their home. Some subs have asked me, or some viewers have asked me to put my dogs outside or in another room. Well, I can't put them outside. I live in an apartment and animals are not allowed to be on our patios without their human. If I put them, my apartment's small. If I put them in the bedroom and lock them in there, they're going to bark worse and you would still hear it. So I apologize, but this is my family and they get noisy. So a good idea would be to turn on your captioning and then you can read what you can't hear. And that's just how life is here at my apartment. And so I do try to keep them quiet. I never know on which video he's going to decide, oh, I'm going to bark and talk and play all through this video. You know, I always think he'll just do it one time and go away, and he doesn't. So I do apologize that this is a little noisy. But they live here. I'm sorry. Okay, here comes my video. Is it on? Yes, I see numbers down here.
Oh, hi guys. Do you want to start that over?
No, it's okay.
Hi.
It's Toby with his ball, and I'm Carol. This is my daughter, Casey. And Casey will be moving a lot because Toby's down here with his ball. Show him your ball. He just walks around with a ball in his mouth most of the time. I have on my New Mexico shirt today because I wanted to talk about New Mexico. To my new subs, we are both New Mexicans. We were both born in New Mexico, but we live in Texas now. But I wish I lived somewhere else. I found out today there was a report that the town we live in is the 4th most violent city in Texas. We've had 355 shootings.
Is that just this year?
In the last 12 months.
In the last 12 months.
Yeah, 355 in 12 months. That's more than I want to know about. Okay, I'm going to read you pretty much an article from onlyinyourstate.com. It says, some people don't know that New Mexico was the first to do these 10 things. They might have been the first to do something, establish, or use something. So, we're going to start with the atomic bomb. It was built in New Mexico. The Manhattan Project was what the scientist group were called. I should have looked this up, but I'm almost positive the Manhattan Project was named after an office in Manhattan, New York, where the whole thing was started. But the scientist, the Manhattan Project scientist, worked in New Mexico at Los Alamos National Laboratory. They completed construction of the first atomic bomb in 20 months. It was detonated July 16th, 1945 at the Trinity site on an Alamogordo bombing range. Alamogordo was in the very southern part of the state. I have a book. I've looked and looked for it. I can't find it. Maybe I gave it to you.
I thought it was, I didn't know, I thought it was one we got from the library. The Alamogordo Wives.
Oh, that's called Wives of Los Alamos. That's another book. This book I'm talking about is called Meanwhile, Back at the Ranch. And it was written by a woman that she and her husband, and I think they had a baby, lived on a ranch down there and actually felt and saw the bomb go off.
Oh, I didn't realize that. It might be on my bookshelf, or you have a box of books in the top of your closet.
It's a white book with black The whole thing is black printing and a sketch on the front called Meanwhile Back at the Ranch.
Okay, and then number 2, they were the first to develop the water disruptor. I guess the first. They developed, not the first. You can't develop it twice. The water disruptor uses a blade of water to pulverize targets. The device, developed by scientists at Sandia National Laboratories.
That's in Albuquerque. Albuquerque is the biggest city in New Mexico.
Was used by troops in Afghanistan to disable roadside bombs. Time magazine called the disruptor one of the 50 best innovations of 2010. Well, I'd never heard of that.
That just makes me want to cry because that was such a good thing to be able to disable bombs instead of getting blown up. Okay, now this one, I read this one, and then I just like to learn things. And so if I read something, I want to read about the person who invented something. I want to read about what happened with this thing, what it did. I fell down the rabbit hole looking up the information on this one. This says the first personal computer came as a kit. Actually, it wasn't the first personal computer. What I found is it was the first successful personal computer ever sold. It was developed by a man named Ed Roberts, who lived in Albuquerque, and it's going away. He developed this personal computer. Some magazine. Oh shoot, where are my notes? Give me that. It was featured on the cover of the January 1975 issue of Popular Mechanics magazine, and it was sold through ads in that magazine and some other hobby type magazines and that kind of thing. It sold for roughly just a little under $500. And as I said, it was developed in Albuquerque. Oh my gosh, when I started reading about this, it was called the Altair 8800, Altair 8800.
Pushed on it.
And I just pushed on something. If you want to get lost in a rabbit hole, you can go there. It was 1974 that he created it. Did you get it back? Oh, Thank you. And in the article, there's just this itty bitty bit. But then I read like for a couple of hours on it. That was roughly at the same time Bill Gates and Paul Allen were university students in Albuquerque and developed Microsoft, basically. That all of this computer stuff is all tied in, and oh my gosh, I fell down the rabbit hole. But anyway, it was developed by Ed Roberts, co-owner of the Albuquerque Calculator Company, Micro Instrumentation and Telemetry Systems, MITS.
My turn to read?
Yeah.
Okay, number 4, designed the modern classroom. Sandia National Laboratory scientist Willis Whitfield invented the clean room in 1962. Now, I assume the Sandia National Laboratories, that's the one in Albuquerque?
Yes, Sandia Lab is in Albuquerque.
His idea entailed a ceiling-to-floor forced air system to help protect experiments from dust, microbes, and humidity. Today, clean rooms are used in the manufacture of everything from semiconductors to screen prints.
We can't show you the picture because of copyrights, but it's like a room with glass walls. You've probably seen this on TV shows where the people working on the objects have to be completely covered in like a white suit and hairnets and their shoes covered so no germs are taken in. Anyway, okay. Nicotine patches were created in New Mexico. This one was an accident. Frank Etzkorn, a retired behavior psychologist at New Mexico Tech, accidentally spilled liquid nicotine on his arm. When the liquid made him nauseous, he realized that nicotine could be delivered via the skin, and he developed the patch to help people quit smoking.
They were the first one to require emergency personnel to carry overdose antidote kits. In April 2017, New Mexico became the first state to require that all state and local law enforcement officers carry antidote kits. I don't know how to say that. Naloxone?
I don't.
To help prevent...
Oh, naloxone? Yeah,
Naloxone.
that's the drug name.
To help prevent deaths from opioid drug and heroin overdoses. New Mexico also was the first state to allow pharmacists to dispense naloxone without a prescription.
Oh, this one, poor Nay subs. I have very tender feelings. I'm fragile. This one makes me want to cry because it's such a shame. This law.
And it's sad all the states don't do it.
Yeah.
As far as I know. Maybe they do now. I don't know.
I don't think all do. No, because I read something the other day. Anyway, let me start about it. New Mexico outlawed lunch shaming. In 2017, New Mexico became the first state to outlaw practices intended to embarrass students with overdue lunch money accounts. The law also encourages schools to work with parents to resolve payment issues directly. I can't read today. This is in contrast to states like Alabama that stamp, "I need lunch money" on the children's arms. Or throw their food away when they can't pay for it.
Which is sad because a lot of times most of the time that is not the child's fault. It's
Never
not that
the
they
child's
didn't
fault.
spend their lunch money on something else.
Yeah.
It's their parents didn't put money in
And
their
to
account.
humiliate them like that is just sinful. I told Casey, if that had ever happened to me, I would never have wanted to go back to school because you know how kids tease each other.
All right. They coined the term breakfast burrito. I did not know that. New Mexicans and probably some other folks have been eating eggs rolled up in a tortilla for ages. However, the original owner of Tia Sophia's, a Santa Fe restaurant, in Santa Fe, claims he was the first to call the concoction a breakfast burrito.
Let me
Okay.
Santa Fe is the capital of New Mexico, and it's north of Albuquerque, northwest.
Tia Sophia also claims that one of their waitresses was the first to use the term Christmas when using both red and green chilies.
When you order anything with chilies in New Mexico, the waitress now, they say, "Do you want that red, green, or Christmas?" And that Christmas means both.
This one is under dispute. I was just about to ask, well, how would they know he was the first one? Texans have this funny idea that someone in San Antonio, Texas, invented it. Daisy Doolin, the mother of Fritos inventor Charles Doolin. Doolin? Maybe Doolin? The New Mexico version of the story says the Frito pie was invented in the 1960s. Oh, I'm sorry. I started reading the other. I just kept on going. Well, I wonder how that one wasn't disputed.
I don't know.
But that's interesting.
But that's a normal thing if you order Christmas in New Mexico. Okay, created the Frito pie. Now this one is under dispute. Texans have this funny idea that someone in San Antonio, Texas, I'm sorry, I can't read today, invented it. Daisy Doolin, the mother of Fritos inventor Charles Doolin. The New Mexico version of the story says that the Frito pie was invented in the 1960s by Teresa Hernandez, who worked at the F.W. Woolworth's lunch counter in Santa Fe. We're going to stick to that story. Okay.
All right. They cooked up the green chili cheeseburger. I would believe that. They're the green chili state.
Yes.
Remember those scientists from the atomic bomb? They may have had a part in the creation of the green chili cheeseburger too. During their off hours, the scientists hung out at the Owl Bar, a little joint in San Antonio, New Mexico. I've never heard of San Antonio, New Mexico.
I have.
Wow. I'll have to look that up. Near the bomb test range. When the scientists got hungry, the bar's owner set up a grill behind the bar and started serving hamburgers topped with New Mexico chili. How many of these New Mexico inventions and firsts did you know of? What about other inventions, creations, and firsts should be on the list?
I guess we're at the end of our article.
I didn't even notice that was the 10th one. I just read the title.
So, there you go.
No, Toby.
That's our little tidbit about New Mexico today. Okay, I don't know anything else.
Toby's arguing with you.
Toby's saying, yes, play with me. That's what he's talking. Yeah. And Molly's just chewing on a bone over here. As far as life here in our little spot in the world, Amarola is having a very difficult time with trash pickup. Over half of the employees of that department have quit, and the other half are starting to quit because they're having to work so many long hours. And trash pickup, I read on Nextdoor, the Nextdoor app today, somebody said her dumpster hasn't been emptied in 2 weeks.
Oh my goodness, how sad.
Yeah. Here at the apartment, they've done pretty good about emptying them, but this weekend they waited until trash was overflowing and people were sitting their bags down.
Yes, it was horrible.
But a lot of residential neighborhoods just aren't getting their trash picked up. You know, you really miss those people when they are not working.
And you can call the city and tell them our dumpster's full, and then they will put you on the list to go do that sooner rather than later. But when there's only
so many
few
people,
guys out there to pick up trash, they're not going to be able to get to it that day.
Probably that's why some neighborhoods are overflowing, because the few people that are working have to go to these places. I've heard they have to do businesses first, or they choose to do businesses first. I don't know.
I don't know which one.
I think that's why here our apartment complex is a business, so I think that's why they've been fairly good.
Oh, maybe.
But anyway,
except for they went one whole week when they usually pick up twice a week, and it got bad. But
yeah, it got bad because there are 144 apartments here, and there are 2, 4, 6 dumpsters for 144 people. And then this is a sad story. Today, the maintenance man, well, let me back up. Casey and her dog Andy found some kittens. Andy is a beagle, and I swear that dog attracts cats.
He's the cat whisperer.
Cats follow him. Not my dogs. My dogs are barking like crazy at him. Honey, I don't have your ball. But not just one cat has done it. Numerous cats. When they see Andy out going for a walk with Casey, they run to be with Andy and walk with him.
Yes, they follow us on walks.
Well, last week, Casey found how many kittens?
2.
And then a couple of days later, she talked to a young lady who said, well, they adopted a third one that looks like those kittens.
No, they, I guess, I don't know, they said they had their siblings, that they got their siblings. So there must have been an entire litter.
Dumped here is what we assume. Because just all of a sudden, here appeared these kittens. Well, today the maintenance man, he knows Casey feeds a cat, and I guess he knows you feed those kittens too. She was taking.
No, he was talking to Sandy, my downstairs neighbor.
Obviously, we should have had this conversation.
Let me just tell the story.
Okay.
So, my downstairs neighbor, she saw me trying to get these kittens, but they wouldn't come to me. Finally, they started coming to Andy, and then they got excited when they finally realized Andy would not hurt them. They would like to come see him when we go on walks. But I couldn't get them trapped, and I fed them a couple of times and gave them water. And then they followed us home, but they couldn't go up the stairs. So my downstairs neighbor feeds another stray cat, and so she put food and water out for the kittens. And amazingly, her cat's kind of mean that she feeds, but he's been really sweet, and he moves over and lets the kittens eat. It is so sweet. But so they've been hanging out there on her patio. You want me to finish?
Yeah, tell him what he's found.
Oh, so anyway, we had a state inspection a while back. When that happens, somebody comes down and inspects the apartments. They choose just a few apartments to go into.
And it's like a lottery system.
Yeah, it's supposed to be it's supposed to be just, what am I trying to say? They don't choose the apartments themselves.
They just pick a number. Yes, I've heard they don't go by looking at the outside or something. A number is chosen in the office before they ever start.
But anyway, so the one they chose, they went in and there were 30 cats in this apartment.
30.
And it was nasty. I don't know how it couldn't be nice and 30 cats. And these aren't huge apartments either. So,
Toby,
that's a lot of cats in
give me your ball.
a little apartment. Toby's ball, I think, went into the couch.
And
So
the
I'm
sad
gonna have to
thing
get out.
is, the lady had lived here since these apartments were brand new 12 years ago,
10 years ago.
10 years ago, and they evicted her because you only have 2 pets.
Yes, and they were going to just call the city and have them pick them up.
Toby,
Our
no. Sorry.
Let me get his ball. You can continue, Mom.
I'm sorry. Toby wants his ball. It's under the couch. He's in his playtime mode. Anyway, so some rescue group is going to take those 30 cats plus these kittens that are over here that Casey's been feeding, take them to another rescue place in Colorado where they will be able to find homes for them. So
Because
that's
we're overrunning cats in Amarillo. People don't spay and neuter their
dogs.
animals. And so our animal shelter has to put down animals every single day.
Oh yeah, a lot.
So we don't have to do that. They found this no-kill shelter. We do have no-kill shelters.
But they
are all just so full and rely on volunteers to foster, and nobody else wants to foster. So
it's a sad situation that
It's horrible.
we are so overrun with unwanted pets. I wish the city would just offer free spay and neutering. But actually, it wouldn't help all that much because there's a clinic here that is at a greatly reduced price. I think when I had Molly spayed, it was $25.
I think it was 35 plus pain medication, and then you have to get their shots.
Anyway, it was
Adam.
$35 is a whole lot less. I think, of course, it goes by the pound of the dog.
But still a lot.
But it was over 100 when I had Toby done.
Yeah.
But anyway, so even though a lot of people could afford $35 to get their animal taken care of, and they just obviously don't.
They just don't care, and I don't understand.
Either. It's horrible, the situation with too many cats and dogs. But anyway, the good news was those animals are being taken to Colorado where they will find homes for them. The sad news is about the lady because obviously she was a troubled soul to have 30 cats.
Yes, I'm wondering if it was a hoarding situation where she just couldn't help it. She just kept taking all these cats in, and she needs mental help.
I would take in cats and dogs till I was running over.
It was hard for me to not want to take these kittens inside if I could catch them, but I'm allergic to cats, so I couldn't have any at all. Anyway, so our city, it needs an overhaul.
And we need an overhaul with dumpster problems and animal problems.
Yes.
I guess that's all we know for today, huh?
That's it.
All right. Oh, I'm reading a good book. Hand me that book. I finished the book that Casey talked about in the last video. I finished it. Have you finished that Ellery Adams book yet? Number 4?
No, but I read some of it yesterday, so I'm working on it. She's reading a lot faster than I am right now.
If I get really interested in a book, because I'm retired and I can do whatever I want when I want to, I read a book, usually beginning to end, unless I fall asleep. Anyway, I'm reading this book, QUILT or Innocence by Elizabeth Craig.
No.
It's the first in a series. I forgot how many are in this series, but I think at least 8. Oh, this is really good so far. I'm down to the part where I've got only this much left to read. They're just about to find out who committed the murder, but haven't got there yet. But as soon as I turn the camera off, I'm going to read the rest. But anyway, I really like this book, QUILT or Innocence by Elizabeth Craig. And I guess that's all we know for today. So, Casey's throwing a ball. Wave at him.
Bye, guys.
She was waving her fingers just to get over there. Bye.